And we are back. Thank you for staying with us. Always a pleasure to have you. As promised, we'll be discussing about a matter that concerns you because we want you to stay ahead. And that's why we're talking about co-ownership in real estate. So whether you're earning much or earning little, there's still the hope that you can own a property, and this is through co-ownership, and we want to get all the details of that. And for this conversation, we have been joined by an expert. We have Felix Akuku here in studio with us. Felix is a value-added service lead, Seek Investment Cooperative, and he will be telling us more about his role. What is it that you do at your company?
Good morning. Good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here and just have a moment to pass information and learn together. Yes, I'm Felix, head of agency business, where we bring in properties that have been value added, ready for occupation, you know, making it right for a customer who just needs no headache. And so that's why we work to ensure that the properties that are brought to the customer, the current customer doesn't want a lot of, ins and outs of how to make property ready. So we make it ready in terms of acquisition, ready for building, ready for offtake and title processing. So that's basically what we do in a nutshell at SIC Investments.
SIC Investments.
Yeah.
When you say property whose value has been added, what do you mean by that?
It's not bare land that has got just bushes beaming in there. It's well graded. If it's tarmacked, if it's fencing, it's well perimetered. It's it has got amenities in there, water reticulation. You know, something that when you come to read, all you want is to get to the bank, own it, and start.
Like you're motivated enough
Yes,
to just
yes,
get into
it's
it
a
straight away.
to your face, and it's exciting, and you're seeing value for the money you want to put in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense, and I believe you're the right person to talk to us about co-ownership in real estate. So how is this different from what is already there in real estate?
So co-ownership, if you allow me to just take a history back,
Please do.
into the medieval age.
Okay.
Back in the time, land and property were owned by kings who would then give it to their subjects. And then pre-colonial times, you'll find that they were owned by communities. You know, you'll hear every community has got a stake in some place. So co-ownership started right in the past, but then with the entry of the colonialists, there's something that is called the Swinnerton Plan.
What is that?
Then
It sounds hard.
It introduced the English system of owning titles, and that's how the title deed and the registry plan came in, which the colonial entity just had a view of normalizing and making it official. So that one came with the goodies and also with the equal trouble that we shall walk around.
We will look into it, definitely.
So you'll find co-ownership. It's a good practice that is building up. Not very popular. I know that will be surprising because there is an aspect of trust which, as we shall be going along, is a key principle that cannot even be legislated. You know, there is no law that legislates on trust. So, but we see that as a main critical part that decides and helps determines co-ownership of property. And there are other different forms of ownerships that you'll find in the society. You know, today you have you can own a property as an individual. You can own property through, you see, the people who buy houses in an apartment. Yeah, it's and these are just, legal terms. I'm not trying to throw and confuse people. So people who own houses in an apartment who are managed by the owners association, it's called condominiums. So that is another form of ownership, which is a big unit, and then people take spaces in there in form of ownership. And then of course there are REITs, where you buy a stake in a real estate firm, and then you earn dividends, and it's managed by the Capital Markets Authority. And then there are investment cooperatives, housing cooperatives that build investment portfolios. Then people and shareholders invest in it, where they earn interest and dividends at the end of every financial year. So those are different forms of owning property. But today we'll focus on co-ownership.
Co-ownership, yeah. Why? Okay, so how is co-ownership different from this others, and how beneficial is it for especially the young people?
So co-ownership, it's an aspect of bringing two parties. Myself and you, we can sit around and identify a property and then start a plan to jointly own it. So as friends, people can come in and own property. As partners in a family setup, brothers and sisters can join up and buy a property. Husband and wife can come and buy a property. Companies can join up and buy property. So something is key in this, that there has to be two parties, and then there has to be an agreement. The agreement is the genesis of cohesion and chaos.
Because there's an element of chaos there,
Oh yeah. So the journey of having a partnership that lasts, it's in the detailing of the contract and the agreements. Both parties have got to agree, if this house is 10 million, then I'm pumping X amount and you're pumping in Y amount. And then if we are taking a facility, we are clear how the charges that would be. So it's a mutual agreement which must then be put into paper. You say, much as you trust, you must verify and
put it
have it validated. And because not all will be, experienced in how to do that, then you have got to have a legal counsel who guides you into having the write-up. So the rider is hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Have clauses that determine the exit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is quite interesting. So it is ownership, joint agreement by two parties, right? Yes. You come together, you have to have an agreement, a contract that is at least recommended.
Very important.
Some might go without, which is dangerous, right? But for these people, what are some of the things that you need to ask yourself before you think about going into co-ownership?
So you've got to, very good question. You've got to understand the portfolio and the value of the property that you're buying, and whether the benefit it offers is within what is informing your decision. If it's a land that you think in the next 2 or 3 years will be of a better value, if it's a housing that is in an area that you see the infrastructure improving, so that value must first be what guides the decision that you take. And then you must be very clear in how you want to finance it, whether it's cash, whether it's through borrowing through the commercial banks, or whether it's through crowdfunding. That has got to be very clear. And then you must just have a well guidance into the ins and outs. In partnership and co-ownership, there is what we call ownership by shares. You own a stake, and so in this owning of stake, it must be defined by the capital you inject. If I put in 80%, then I'll be the dominant owner. If you put in 20%, you'll be the minor donor. So that has got to be very clear as you, and then if it's a facility that is being financed by a bank, there has to be an understanding of who amongst the parties will be servicing the loans therein. And then if it's a property that possibly needs to be managed by others, then you might consider, do you need to hire a property manager? Let's say mostly I'll be using an example of me and you for understanding.
Sure. I accept.
For understanding. So we bought some 10 units of apartments in Westlands, but every morning we've got to be here to educate.
Yes,
so somebody has got to be watching and managing the property. So property managers always, they charge you close to 3 to 5%. It helps
of what you earn.
Yes,
from that
it
property.
helps into ensuring that it's managed professionally, where you don't get calls while on set to sort
there's an issue here. Someone is leaving the house, they've not paid rent.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So another critical thing that you've got to ensure is how have you crafted the contract in a manner that leads to cohesion, because that is what you must have, an exit clause, where we do indicate that by God's grace, if I go before you, then you are the owner,
automatically become the owner.
Yes. Then if you go before me, then I assume ownership, or we indicate that if we all go, then it's entrusted. So all these are details that with the legal guidance, you guide it so that at no end it doesn't end up to unclaimed financial assets, which is a sad reality.
Unfortunate.
Properties are owned and they are not declared when ownership is dormant and not known for some while. It goes to unclaimed, and it remains there for God knows how long, until the inheritance get to dig in and
find out about it, because I also understand that there are some families that even people who do not disclose to their families that they have some property, so the family doesn't even know that they're supposed to claim a property or anything. So that's how serious the contract should be and how detailed it should be then. But that could also be an option, could also be if one of us goes before the other, then someone else inherits, takes up my shares,
through the next of kin.
Next of kin, yeah. Okay.
That as a rider.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why is this? Why would you say this is beneficial to the young people?
So if you look at the property prices, they keep on growing in terms of the price. And so there is need to have a pooling of funds which allows for easy access of capital. And so you'll find co-ownership helps parties to raise funds a little bit easy, in without much stress, and also it allows you also to spread your risks. If I buy a property and it ends up being a loss, it's heavy, but when we are together, it's a shared spoil.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that one helps, and also when you own property jointly, you lessen the risks of being scammed, because all of you are attentive, and if that property is to be disposed, there has to be consent from both parties. So that one helps access the funds. But one thing that is the impediment as will come along is the issue. How well do you know the partner whom you're planning to invest with? Then it becomes a critical path to the success or not of. And it then informs that the process of documenting the agreement is one that is done in such a manner that all are taken and covered in a manner that is consistent with the capital that you've put in. So a huge portion of the success is built by trust.
Trust, as you said.
Yeah.
That's a key component.
A very key component. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, you mentioned something about the bank and, you deciding who is going to take up a loan. So I'm looking at the properties that banks sell. So can we go together and say we want to co-own this property, and then they have us both take up the responsibility, or write both of us?
So banks are very keen on offers that come from co-ownership, and the kind of rigor they put to give you an approval is one that can either dismiss you off, or if you're really in it, then you'll go the long haul, because it, for every facility in the bank, it stands to be a good product or an unperforming product. So they've got to be very sure of the two partners, who's the principal financier, and if it's 100 financing, they've got to be very clear on the collaterals that support that. And so it's one that invites a lot of documentation, which our peers and our age are not very patient. We need things to be very quick.
Not Gen Z, yes.
And so an understanding has got to be that, banks query a lot, They have got to send their valuer to come and ensure that that property is of a certain value. They have got to be sure that your financial history is that which confirms to them that you are able to pay this facility. They must be sure that if you fail to pay, then they've got a fallback property that they'll take from you. So those are the beauty and the commitments that come with being financed by a bank. But that one needs not to dim the spirit of co-owning, because we have got SACCOs equally, which offer affordable capital with the less collateral need. And so that is also an option that can be considered during financing. Highly recommended, because it's the start-off point. Because, if you're starting and you still don't have collaterals, it's your savings that will be used as a collateral. So you see, if my saving is X amount, your saving is Y amount, we bring it together, we're able to put in. So, of course, other extras, if you're able to bring in cash, then you save yourself from the interest from the bags that will be coming in. So, those are options that we can always consider.
What about the people in diaspora, because they're also very keen to invest back in their country, Kenya specifically, for the Kenyans who are abroad? How does it work for them? Because they're not physically present. So how will co-ownership work?
Very, 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 very true. Now, there is a new model in co-ownership which is equally informed by technology, which increasingly the diaspora market are falling into. And nowadays, with Airbnb, you don't need to own a house. You just need to spot a property that is managed through Airbnb, and then you own a stake. It's called fractional ownership of so you buy, you own a stake in that business of Airbnb, and then you get your returns timely as will be prescribed. So that is one of the models that the diasporas are using. But the diaspora mostly, they depend on institution more than families because of
trust. It boils down to trust
exactly,
again.
Exactly. I mean, they've been treated to confusion, and they really work hard to have all that together. And so mostly you'll see them impressed to work with the institution, who if the institution messes them, they can arbitrate it in court. If your brother swindles you, you'll
it's hard. You'll be called for a meeting, and you have yeah.
So I see mostly they are resorting to deal with companies. So again, it's just due diligence, which ought to be done in great depths. Ensure you've got a legal team which checks that, is this a valid company? Do they have an office? Get to visit. It's the physical presence of an entity that invites you to buy a property is very important. Yes, there'll be nice websites and links and images, high definition.
Yes.
But please
make
go
sure
verify they exist. They're in first floor of this building A, and get to know whether there are people there, because you'll be shocked to know that behind the nice looking website is a company somewhere in the cloud. So that verification is important. And I see most of them nowadays are in associations where they try to ensure that what goes around, you get one good guidance through an entity, word goes around, and they say, hey, I got a property through SSC Investments, and you've got to check on them. They guided me through. So that is one way in which they use to ensure that they're not scammed.
Okay, yeah. That at least is clear for those that are interested in diaspora. Now, taking a look at we've looked at the cohesion and all that you need to have, but now the chaos. What happens? What happens when the deal goes wrong? You were together.
Yeah.
You had good intentions, both of you, but then financially, one of you just it's not working anymore. So what happens in such a case?
So back to the aspect I indicated about detail of contracting, where you have got exit clauses. Exit clauses should foresee possible chances, financial incapability. In case of this financial incapability, either of the party should be able to take their own stake, or the incapable partner should be in a position to sell it off to another person, or should be able to exit at the point he or she feels is incapable. And all these are guided by laws. And so from the the Matrimonial Act, you'll always find it presupposes that upon drafting, unless it's indicated it's a 50-50, but then it has to be, so all the parties must be clear that, is it 50-50, 80-30, 70, 80-20, 70-30, and or that, so that in case of mutual separation, there is that guide to ensure that it's easy. So the chaos comes in not caring of the end bargain, or rather how exit clauses are to be drafted. Contracts are always drafted when we're in good terms.
Yeah.
And then things happen. and so we're always told to think of the worst scenarios of this, and ways to ensure that whatever the case, the capital that has been injected doesn't go down the drain. I'm sure people have covered instances where some parents who've gone and the children get to fight, and it scares the customers, because the customer doesn't want chaos. Anywhere he sees an ownership that is bedecked with chaos, they run away. So let us work to see a good exit clauses that ensures that there is business continuity plan.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So in the event that people do not have the exit clause, what happens? They go through the legal system and back and forth, and
the courts come in. The courts come in. So again, what does the contract presuppose when we do not agree? Is it through a court process, or is it through arbitration, or even the court can force a sale, you know, because these people are not agreeing.
So we just sell this and then
an order is given, let them sell, and then they share the spoils and watu waende nyumbani.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so because in any case, you know, the matter's got to come to a stall. So when there's no agreement, there's that force to sell, but then there is also arbitration, takes long time to finish. So those are the options when we fail to agree.
Okay, fair enough. For this co-ownership, is it different? Like, are there different types when we come to family, maybe friends, maybe whichever person that you want to co-own with?
Yes, they are different with respect to who are the parties. If they are friends, you know, all of them will have to be put into the naming of the property. If it's a family, a husband and
a wife,
excuse me, they'll have to all have their name indicated there. If we have a joint company, then we co-own it through the company so that we be directors in there. And if we are colleagues at work, then we come in as friends. So the contracting detail is one that then indicates how we're going to manage our capital. If it's a company, if it's a property that has to be managed, which party will be managing the overhead costs, which party will be managing the taxations, because there are taxations. There, there's capital gain tax and income tax that Mr. Caesar has got to take from you. So we've got to be very clear who will be sorting Mr. Caesar in there, so that it's a valid business. Because again, if you don't pay the taxes, they'll come for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be tax compliant.
Exactly.
So it can be owned even by investment groups, by chamas, by friends, by couples, and all that. Only the details are a bit different.
Yeah,
when it comes
it's actually a better way. I'm sure you've heard of that joke towards the end of the year that, be friendly to them. They're about to get their packs.
Yes.
So after that, these packs are just eaten. How about if it were invested somewhere? And so a conversation is always, spinned that, all these groupings that we have, all these monies that we always have, that we then, it's not bad to pigia mwili pole, but, save first before you spend. And so it's encouraging to indicate to our listeners, our dear listeners, that, those funds that we crowdfund, let's put them into an entity that earns it. Because, your 1,000 today is not the same value next week, depending on what it is. And you will see co-ownership has improved even because of the government policies. I know it's one that it's greeted with mixed reactions, but the affordable housing, they are desirous to make, renters be homeowners. I'm sure you saw the flurry of events last week of happy people, So it is a conversation that everyone must start understanding what it entails, because, when you get, yes, you'll not be paying rent, but you'll be paying some, ownership taxes. So you've got to be very clear on what you're getting into.
Right. Yeah. That's fair enough. And when you talked about types of ownership, and you mentioned buy shares. Yeah. So what are the other types of ownership?
So like I mentioned earlier, you'll have people can invest in SACCOs because they are more regulated. Their portfolios are governed by regulatory bodies. The other risks in co-ownership is buying properties that you are not sure how they are regulated. And so when you have money and you're not sure whether to buy a house, you're not sure whether it is a house sanctioned. The other time you saw in Mombasa, some huge building had to be brought down. You can imagine if you'd put your, it's painful.
Gone.
And so it is important that, you know, when you're not sure, put monies in regulated entities. So you can put some money into real estate investment trust because they're regulated. You can invest through portfolios offered by investment cooperatives because they are regulated. That one covers you from getting into uncharted waters. So those are options that we can always explore on.
Pursue.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. And now, what are some of the, you know, how does how does co-owners protect themselves if one party defaults? Is it still part of the contract?
Yeah.
The details that need to be there.
So just like we had indicated, that for as long as we have captured our contractual obligation very well, then we find ourselves in a position to, you know, navigate safely the challenges that come. But as fate would have it, at times we get into conflicts, you know. In one case or the other, somebody as financial stream stops and you've got to separate, and so that has got to be very clear. And when drafting, and this is where the legal counsel comes in very, very clear. In case of any conflict, you know, seek legal advisory of how to sort it before you seek to arbitrate and go to court. You know, internal conflict resolution helps in so much. But there are cases that you realize that, you know, there is dishonesty from one party or the other, and you, to avoid and avert a loss of a property, then you can you know, entrust the running of the entity to a firm, or when you feel that, you know, there is conflicts amongst the parties. And so the courts come in. There is environmental land courts that always either sets the matter or bring in arbitrators to help sort the conflicts that are, and the rulings are given on the best show of evidence of proof of validity. So to him who alleges, he must prove. So them who are on the safe side of the law will always win. Them who are on the other side, so documentation is very key, and they have got to be valid documents. You know, nowadays also we're seeing a scheme of documentation, but of fake documents. So documentation has got to be, you know, documents that are notarized, they are validated by all authorities to be one that can stand in a court of law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. What about the best kind of properties for co-ownership? Are there like what particular ones that you'd recommend?
So you'll find mostly co-ownership comes with family comes in greatly, and so people want to own properties that they can have as a family. You know, when families grow, they want a place when they can settle up. So you'll find co-ownership coming in there, and also you'll find a lot of co-ownership coming in spaces like REITs and real estate investment trust, because you put a stake in there. You'll also find the Elden. It said they have gone through the the trials, and now they see that before the sunset, let's have this form of property for our children, our children's children. So they put in homes and for that purpose. We, like we said, that there is no model that is, that fixes all. But a great opportunity lies, because by the data from Kenya National Bureau of Standards is that it's only 25,000 of Kenyans who can afford mortgages. So the rest of all this lot have got to get alternative ways of financing. And so much as many properties, statistically, you'll find people going to buy them alone because of trust issues. So co-ownership is getting traction. So you'll see a lot of, like I'm sure you see Upper Hill and you see the kind of busy skyscrapers that are coming in there. So that is an opportunity for co-ownership when you can't raise the funds by yourself. And also, like I mentioned earlier, technology-based ownerships are also coming in, where real estate portfolios that now invite stakes, where you just subscribe in and put in. So those ones are also gaining traction as we develop.
Okay, so that's a good thing, because it's gaining popularity slowly.
It's good. It just needs all of us to be attentive. And there is the investor, who's the co-owner, and then there is the business entities who bring forth the products. So the business entities have got an obligation to make co-ownership and real estate investment an exciting journey. Because when buying a property, it's an emotional move. We always have a joke that, when you see an investor come with a lady to inspect for a second time, then umejua, hii deal inaingia. So, because that is the seriousness that is attached to it. And so, when that journey is interrupted by fraud and scamming, you rip off a life. And so, as entities that bring properties for, we've got a great detail of bringing property that are on a foundation of a strong governance, so that the co-owners can have a journey of delight. So that is where the nexus has got to be put in strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you'd say it's how important is it to seek or to consult before, even in co-ownership, before you purchase a property or something, before you make an investment, because you'd think, we are two heads, we can't get it wrong, we can't be scammed. But how important is it to seek an expert opinion?
It's very important to know from both sides. From us as co-owners, we must know on the legal realities that we are setting ourselves into, the realities of pumping capital, the realities of managing the property, and the reality of exit clauses. From a property perspective, we have got to do a due diligence on the property. Through the legal counsel, we've got to ensure that is the property, approved by the authorities, if it's NEMA, if it's all those, we get it right, so that we invest in something that will outlive our existence.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is profound. Thank you for that. Before we come to a close on this conversation, I have a couple of things that I also want you to touch on. You had mentioned about getting someone to manage your property, even as you co-own, as so that it doesn't interfere with what work, if you're working, or any other business that you have. But how important is it to also get the right property managers, because there's also the danger that they will mismanage your property, and that will be a loss into you.
It's important that the property managers that you bring in have a history of good performance. Somebody should not just come from the blues and imagine that he'll. So property managers are around who are listed and who their works are seen, and get to ask them which other properties do you manage, and visit there and talk to the handlers who they handle, and you'll get to know who are the most proactive ones, whom one you can work with. So it's again that aspect of due diligence. Every aspect that every good story that you told, trust but verify. Trust but verify every time. Yeah.
Trust but verify every time, and trust is a very key component.
I'm sure I've mentioned it throughout and so in my life, each and every day with our wonderful marketing team, we ensure that we sell that trust. And it's a bumpy road. It's a bumpy road, but like they say, if the mountains were smooth, no one will hike to the top.
Had to beat up so that only a few can make it.
Sure.
Okay. And now, what are some of the trends that you see in co-ownership, especially among the young people and those that are in diaspora?
Interesting. I'm a Christian, an Adventist, but then I see a lot of good tidings coming from Sharia businesses.
Okay.
Sharia comes with an experience of zero interest, and so you'll find a lot of new inventions of ensuring that people crowdfund and they buy property that are Sharia compliant, because it saves you the interest that you would be ordinarily charged in others. So it's a good competition from interest charging facilities and non-interest charging facilities. And also with the economy being tough, people are now considering, pulling funds to buy properties so that they are able to co-own. Government programs that are coming in terms of home ownership are going to inform how properties are owned, and with there are lots of projects that are running around, so you'll see a lot of co-ownership. It will be a bit chaotic in the first because it's a new invention, coming in, but far and large I see information is out here, and so the ignorance levels are beginning to slow down, and people are getting more informed, through Ardisasa, the entity that where all searches are done, you're able to search and authenticate. And so much as there are lots of disputes that are happening, which is also, making people fear venturing into it, but we're seeing a lot of clamor for information thanks to programs like this. Information is now out there. And so when people search co-ownership, Y254 will be coming there, and information will be out. So the more we share, the more information will be known, and the less the disputes, with the hope that the trust deficit will be also taken care of.
Going up. All right. One more thing, you had mentioned about the tax bit and the need of property owners to be tax compliant and taking that into consideration as well. So is it the same for people who are buying property for commercial use to rent it out for business, and someone who wants to buy it for family purposes?
So depending on the value of the property that you have, there is the government did introduce capital gain tax, which is around 16.5, quite a huge burden. And so it's the hope again that, with that taxation, the environment will be well smoothened, because, taxes should make environment easy for business. So that is an aspect. So ensure as you buy a property, you get a good tax consultant who ensures that you do not underpay nor overpay. because, you know, if you underpay, you'll be liable. If you overpay, wanasema what goes to Caesar never comes back.
It can't come back.
So you need to get good advisory as you get into it, so that you just pay enough.
Okay.
That is needed.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And I know the topic of taxation is wide, and we won't even get into it today. But let me allow you to give your final word to the young person who's watching, and an aspiring investor who feels that they've been priced out in the real estate market. So this is your camera. You can talk directly to them, even as you share your social media platforms, how people can get you.
All right, so start small, building blocks. You know, it's said that even the pyramid scheme in Egypt was a concept of co-ownership, because they had to partner.
Oh, wow.
They had to partner with the bricklayers to ensure that this, you know, artistry is so there is that aspect of just starting with some smaller building blocks. So, I mean, join circles, join investment cooperatives, so that you have got a start. The more you get a property, the more collateral you have to always get to own something big. So, you know, have a portion, weka ya sherehe kando, but be very tuned to know that which you need to build up, and always seek legal counsel to ensure that what you get into after you've saved is something that will not have your money go down the drain.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Where can people find you on your social media?
We can always interact as SIC Investments on all our Twitter handles. On my personal handle is Felix Jeremy Akuku. I'm on Twitter and Facebook. I need to get to TikTok.
Okay. Yeah, you need to get to where the Gen Zs are as well.
I need to get to TikTok. I'll open one today.
Awesome, good. Thank you. Thank you very much for this particular discussion.
It was a pleasure.
Very insightful. I believe people have gotten light into the opportunities that are there, even for the young people, in getting property through co-ownership. Right. So thank you very much for staying with us. We always appreciate your company, and we have been talking about co-ownership in real estate. I hope your eyes have been opened like mine have, because there are many opportunities. No matter what you're doing, how much you're earning, there is opportunity. So just find someone that you trust and do due diligence. Make sure that you consult the right people before you get into this particular investment. So that has been Felix Akuku. He is a value-added service lead at SIC Investment Cooperative, and you can get him on his socials or their socials if you want more information. For now, take a short break, and then Brian Sakwa will be coming up with more.